Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
The state's largest orthopedic group is growing to meet the needs of the patients in our community. The Orthopedic Center has long been the most trusted name in orthopedics in North Alabama. So as our area continues on the fast track, so does the need for premier orthopedic care anywhere and anytime you need it. TOC is proud to announce the opening of our new locations in Albertville and Hampton Cove, along with the grand opening of our newest office in Decatur. These clinics will offer the same high-quality orthopedic care you have come to associate with TOC, with the convenience of being closer to home. As a patient, your time is your most precious asset, and we recognize that at TOC. That's why we are also proud to announce the opening of our urgent ortho clinics to handle those bumps and bruises that need prompt attention. These clinics are available to care for acute orthopedic injuries with no appointment necessary. With 38 physicians, 20 centers of excellence, and now more than a dozen locations to serve you, TOC will continue to be the name you turn to for the best orthopedic care at the right time. Visit our website at visittoc.com for more information. TOC, helping you live a better life.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
This is Wes Neighbors sitting here with Stan McDonald. Stan, tell everybody why you're the best damn dirt lawyer in North Alabama.
Yes, Wes, at Jacob Title and the Stanton Law Firm. You know I'm a dirt lawyer, and a lot of our friends know that, which means we specialize in real estate. Now, if you own real estate or you're buying it or you're selling it, you need to do a closing, but a lot of times there's legal issues associated with that. We're a great group to talk to. My son, Lewis McDonald, heads our commercial closing division, and we approach your real estate needs very seriously. We seek to be the premier real estate closing company in North Alabama, and we do it in such a way it shows that we're experienced, we're for your success. We like to handle your real estate needs the same way Coach Dan Reeves used to say, never let them see you sweat. And that's going to be to your benefit, too, when you visit us at Jacob Title and the Stanton Law Firm. Our website online is jacobtitle.com.
The state's largest orthopedic group is growing to meet the needs of the patients in our community. The Orthopedic Center has long been the most trusted name in orthopedics in North Alabama. So as our area continues on the fast track, so does the need for premier orthopedic care anywhere and anytime you need it. TOC is proud to announce the opening of our new locations in Albertville and Hampton Cove, along with the grand opening of our newest office in Decatur. These clinics will offer the same high-quality orthopedic care you have come to associate with TOC, with the convenience of being closer to home. As a patient, your time is your most precious asset, and we recognize that at TOC. That's why we are also proud to announce the opening of our urgent ortho clinics to handle those bumps and bruises that need prompt attention. These clinics are available to care for acute orthopedic injuries with no appointment necessary. With 38 physicians, 20 centers of excellence, and now more than a dozen locations to serve you, TOC will continue to be the name you turn to for the best orthopedic care at the right time. Visit our website at visittoc.com for more information. TOC, helping you live a better life.
The Drive.
You know, both those guys have done a good job in what we've asked them to do, and both of them have developed nicely, and both of them have consistently made plays.
Wes and Steve.
Their decision-making, their judgment, their ability not to force things and take what the defense gives and distribute the ball with good decision-making, down in, down out, is...
This hour is brought to you by Woody Anderson Ford, Alabama's F-150 Superstore. Welcome to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977.
That's how I roll. And I'm not going to drink and drive anymore.
That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Wes and Steve.
And a very pleasant, good Friday evening to you. A big thank you to Tom Abraham for filling in yesterday on The Drive, as, of course, I was most notably unavailable on the way back from Tuscaloosa for the 3A championship game, and I guess that's a good place to start. Congratulations to Mobile Christian on the win. 55-28 was that final score yesterday over Madison Academy, but honestly, just as a broadcaster, what a ride for the Mustangs. It was fun to be a part of that ride all the way to the championship game. As you can tell, I would hope you can tell, I am not in studio. In fact, I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee, getting ready for some UAH Charger basketball. For me personally, this is 5 games in 5 days. It started off 2 days ago with MTSU taking on Tennessee. By the way, it was the first win in the history of the Lady Raiders, downing the Lady Vols. And, of course, you heard that game over our airwaves, courtesy of TOC and North Alabama Mortgage. And then yesterday morning was the 3A championship game here today in Cleveland, Tennessee, and it's a big one, by the way. The Lee Flames, they are undefeated on the season, 5-0, 3-0 in GSC play, as UAH is now 4-3, coming off of a loss, and at home to West Alabama, 2-1 in GSC play. So a big one here in Cleveland that we will have for you. Scheduled tip time is around 6:30, and so get ready for that. And then also coming up tomorrow morning, Talking Ball will be live from University Kia from 9:30 to 11:30, and that'll walk you up to Alabama basketball as the Crimson Tide taking on Purdue in Toronto. And in fact, Roger Hoover is going to have that call because of a snafu that Chris Stewart did not update his passport. So Roger Hoover will have that call coming up tomorrow midday-ish, and then that'll roll into our coverage of the Army-Navy game. You can hear the full game over on Zone 2, by the way, for the Army-Navy game. And then tomorrow night, I'll be on the call for Huntsville Havoc Hockey. In fact, the Havoc are on the road tonight in Pelham, Alabama, taking on the Birmingham Bulls. It's a back-to-back, so the Bulls will be in town tomorrow night over at the VBC. I think it's Superhero Night, so I can't wait to see what those jerseys look like coming up tomorrow night over at the VBC. And then on Sunday, what do we have on Sunday? What do we have on Sunday? Actually, no Bama recap, believe it or not, but we do have Falcon football. Pre-game coverage will start at 10 o'clock, and then we've got more UAH Charger basketball as the Chargers will be on the road in Rome, Georgia, taking on the Shorter Hawks. That comes up on Sunday right at the conclusion of Falcon football. Urban Meyer had a thing or two to say today on 3 about the Final Four that we all witnessed last Sunday. Here is Urban Meyer from earlier today. If I can get this thing properly. Come on, Urban. Come on, Urban. Let me try it another way, Herb. So I am trying my best, folks. Let's try this one more time.
Their coach, I met him a couple of times, and he took over a really tough situation, and they put together a great team. However, I do believe they got it right because I watched them closely, and then I went back and watched the film because a lot of times on TV you can't really watch it, and they're a completely different team without their quarterback. Yeah. You know, they ran Wildcat a ton of times in that game, and it was a very clunky offense. They're not a great team without that quarterback. They're a really good team, great defense. But Louisville was, it just didn't look like a great game. And then all of a sudden you're watching Alabama, Georgia. You're watching some of these other teams. I saw Texas up close and personal. To me, they're the best looking team in college football. I think they got the best roster. So,
of course,
we beat Alabama. And I made this point many, many times. Alabama could not have went in there ahead of Texas. You can't do that. If that would have happened, I said this on TV, that I would have went in to see Gene Smith if I was still coaching and said, get rid of all our non-conference. We're playing Mid-America Conference schools. And it doesn't matter because the committee doesn't look at that. Head-to-head does matter. So I think they got it right. It's an imperfect system. The way they do it, they have 3 coaches on the committee. Those are the only people that really have that experience to watch tape, to pick the 4 best teams. but I believe they got them right. Those are the 4 that I would have picked. And I wanted to make sure before I spoke, I watched all the tape on, and those are the 4 best teams.
That is Urban Meyer from earlier today from On3.com, believing that the committee did indeed get it right. And I don't think there's any question about that. So, what is the plan here for the next hour and a half? We are going to take an early time out. Wes and I spoke with Trevor Matich earlier in the week, a very insightful conversation. We're going to re-rack that for you. Certainly your phone calls, we can sprinkle them in, but this next interview is rather lengthy. There is no West Neighbors today, but I'm here with you, and we're walking you up to UAH Charger basketball as UAH is taking on the Lee Flames. So let's go ahead and take our first time out. There is no pick 2 today, Dan. No pick 2 going on today. So let's go ahead and take our first time out. Appreciate you listening. And yes, I did make it. For those of you that know that I had car trouble.
You're listening to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
If you're the kind of value shopper who waits to the end of the year because you know that's when the deals are the best, it's here. And there's no first payment for 90 days. Hi, folks. Bobby White back again for Woody Anderson Ford's Make the Holiday Bright sales event. And we've got the best selection of new and certified pre-owned Fords we've had in years. Right now, get financing as low as 2.9% for up to 72 months on 23 F-150s. America's best-selling truck for 47 years. 2.9 on F-150. And Woody Anderson Ford has over 100 F-150s to choose from. Great finance rates and no first payment for 90 days on all new Fords. We have financing as low as 1.9% for up to 60 months on 23 Explorer, Escape, and Bronco Sport 2. It's our year-end sales event, the best time of the year to buy, plus no first payment for 90 days. Your good credit through Ford Motor Credit. This offer ends December 30th. Come by and make your holidays bright at Woody Anderson Ford. We hope to see you soon.
Football season and Bad Daddy's Burger Bar. The perfect combination of good times and great food. This season, score big with one of our chef-inspired expressions of pure burger amazingness. Our delicious burgers are made with premium Angus beef, and you can pair it with one of our signature cocktails or a cold craft beer from our huge selection. Bad Daddy's Burger Bar on the Parkway in Huntsville and our new location at Cliff Farm, Highway 72 in Madison. These days, saving time is important, and saving money is even more so. That's where Eagle Masonry and Insulation comes in. Over the years, Eagle has expanded their services to meet the needs of folks like you in our area. If you need masonry, brick, stone, or block work, Eagle should be your first call. They can even help if your property needs grading, erosion control, and Eagle can handle dirt haul-off. Call Eagle Masonry and Insulation today at 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time, and Eagle saves you money.
Everyone loves Nashville right now. It's the perfect family getaway, but it isn't just known for its food, bright lights, and music. It's also known for football. The Trans-Perfect Music City Bowl is coming to Nissan Stadium on December 30th. Come see Auburn versus Maryland right here in Music City. The music, the food, the fun. Spend your weekend in Nashville. It's your family's perfect start to the new year. Tickets are available now at MusicCityBowl.com and on SeatGeek. Brought to you by Tennessee Lottery.
Electric cars are coming faster than you think, and that's why we're bringing SEMA Connect to Alabama.
Our team educates you and helps provide a long-term plan for your business. Where to put them, how to get them there, how to pay for them, tax incentives, service, and monitoring. We take care of everything.
Doing the right thing means bringing EV car chargers to Alabama. Let us help you with your EV charging plan.
Work injuries happen in Alabama all the time, whether it's an accident at work, getting injured, lifting heavy objects, hurting your hands on a machine, or just performing the same movement over and over until your body breaks down. But when it happens, there's only one law firm to call in Alabama. That's Pond Lehocky Giordano. For personalized legal support, reach out to Pond Lehocky at 855-774-3838 or pondlehocky.com.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
This segment of The Drive is brought to you by Woody Anderson Ford, located online at woodyAndersonFord.com with 2 locations, Hughes Road in Madison and Jordan Lane in Huntsville.
Back here on The Drive on a Wednesday afternoon, along with Wes Neighbors. Steve Moulton back here with you, and time to head out to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Talk a little football, shall we? As we're actually walking you up to some college basketball that we'll have over our airwaves here tonight with Middle Tennessee State University taking on the Lady Vols of the University of Tennessee. But nonetheless, let's talk some football, shall we? As Trevor Mattich from ESPN is kind enough to join us. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Steve. How are you doing?
Doing real well. And I guess the most obvious place to start is... what was that about? At least Central Time. That was about 11:22 Central Time when it said Alabama the 4 seed. What was your first reaction?
I thought that was right. I thought that was fair. Florida State fans are apoplectic and have a right to be. But I thought that Alabama was right at number 4. And in part because of that, Texas comes in as a package deal at number 3. But you know, Alabama, the one loss that they had was to the team that the committee ranked number 3 at the end of the season when all the data points were in. That's Texas. That was their only loss. Other than that, they were undefeated. And people say talk a lot about, the naysayers talk a lot about how they barely beat Auburn and struggled against USF and stuff like that. And all that is reasonable, but Alabama still is a one-loss SEC champ who just beat the Georgia team that the committee has ranked number 6 now, which is also low. And so that's a great win in their final data point, and their only loss is to number 3. And so I think it's fair. I think it's right. And I think the committee did the best job they could in an extraordinarily difficult year when there were 4 teams in with a great argument to be in the final 2 spots, Texas, Alabama, Florida State, and Georgia. It was a no-win situation for the committee, and I think they made the best decision they could have.
So were you surprised at all? I mean, I thought they made the right decision, but I didn't think they were going to make the right decision.
No, Wes, I thought, before the decision came out, I was on SportsCenter and they said, well, who do you think is going to be the top 4? And I said Washington at 1, then Michigan, and if you flip those, that's fine with me, and the committee did. Texas, Alabama, and so it didn't surprise me. I thought that would be right. You didn't think they would make the right decision, though, huh?
Well, I mean, so just maybe because of what ESPN said every week. I mean, strength of schedule is a big thing to me. As you know, it doesn't matter just beating these teams; it's who you play. That's why I agree with you. Washington should be over Michigan because of Michigan's schedule and their schedule strength. But they hadn't talked about it. They came up with something, as we talked about last week, the SOR, the strength of record. And I've never heard of that. And I just thought they were making such a big deal about the strength of record that maybe they weren't going to ever look at strength of schedule. But when you looked at strength of schedule, according to ESPN, Alabama was 5th and Florida State was 55th. And that's a big difference number.
Yeah, that was one of the things I think they'd look at. It's not just who you lose to, or whether you lose it, it's who you beat and when, where you beat them. And Florida State tried to get a top 10 victory when they scheduled LSU, but LSU finished at 13th. They finished outside the top 10, and Alabama beat them as well. And so when you look at the best wins, Alabama's best wins are better than Florida State's best wins, right? But ultimately, the reason they made the decision based on what their spokesperson Boo Corrigan said, and based on, just what they did, was because they are allowed in their written guidelines to consider key injuries. And when Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis was hurt against North Alabama with 2 games to go, the committee was able to look at Florida State's performance as a new team, essentially, in the last 2 games. The comp to that is 2014 Ohio State, and I'm sure you guys have talked about that, where J.T. Barrett got hurt for the Buckeyes in the last game of the regular season. The committee was very interested to see how the backup Cardale Jones would do in the only game they'd get to see the Buckeyes with him starting, which was the Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin. Well, Ohio State wins 59-0. So the committee's like, okay, doesn't look like there's much of a drop-off. They're still rolling. And so they considered Ohio State a top 4 team. Florida State, the first game that the committee had to evaluate the Seminoles as a team without their starting quarterback, was against Florida. Really tricky game, rivalry game on the road. Florida State won that game. But what the committee saw was a passing attack that didn't work. Tate Rodemaker, the backup, he had 134 yards passing, averaged 5.5 yards per attempt. Florida's pass defense was worst in the SEC in terms of passing yards allowed per attempt. They allow 8.5. Rodemaker could only get 5.5. And they won the game, but it was a completely different team. And then, of course, against Louisville in the ACC championship game, Rodemaker was out with a concussion, and the backup Brock Glenn, freshman third-string guy, couldn't play at all, and at least he's not ready to play at all. And they won the game on the strength of a couple of big runs from the Wildcat formation. But the committee looked at those 2 games, especially the Florida game, because Rodemaker would be back from concussion protocol, we assume, for the playoffs. And they saw that Florida State had now changed. They had now become Iowa. Elite defense, suspect offense that can't throw a forward pass. And people say that, with a month's worth of practice, Rodemaker would be better at it, but the committee doesn't project that. They say, what do we see? What they saw with Ohio State in 2014 was 59-0. Okay, we see that they're still rolling. What they saw against Florida State essentially was Iowa. And that's the biggest reason, in my opinion, that they put Florida State at number 5 and Alabama at number 4.
Let's dive into the matchups. Let's start with Washington and Texas. Size that one up for me, Trevor.
This is going to be fun. There might be a point or 2 scored here. The thing about Washington is when they're rolling, they're hard to stop because the running game is good enough. We saw that against Oregon. The passing game, of course, is elite when everything is rolling. And their defense is not the strength of the team, but they've showed they can play well in situations. And this is how they beat Oregon both times, actually. Washington, in the first win over Oregon, Oregon actually outgained them. But Oregon's offense had 3 plays that were 4th and 3 over the course of that game. Had they converted any of those, they probably would have won. But Washington's defense stopped them on all 3 of those. Situational football, Huskies win. In the Pac-12 championship game, the Huskies ran 78 offensive plays. Oregon only ran 54, 78 plays to 54, because Oregon was 3 of 10 on third downs. Washington was 5 of 3 of 10 on third down. Washington was 10 of 15 on third down. So in the key situations, Oregon couldn't stay on the field, and they couldn't get Washington off the field. And even though they had such a differential in number of plays run, Washington still only won that game by 3 points. But they are excellent in situations. Texas can make them one-dimensional. Texas's run defense is one of the best in the country. And they'll be able to, I think, stop that run of Washington. Now, the one dimension of Washington is really good, it's that passing attack. But at the same time, Texas is the leading sacking team in the Big 12. So once they make you one-dimensional, they can get after the pocket and they can get after the quarterback. And so I think ultimately those are going to be the key factors in the game. I think Texas wins the game. I think they do it because they are stronger at the line of scrimmage. And I think in the playoffs, line of scrimmage has typically been the key differentiator.
Texas had the best offensive line and defensive line Alabama played this year.
Wow. See, Wes, that is saying, and I respect that tremendously coming from you.
They did. And they had to me, they had the best coached defensive line, and we know that because he was at Alabama for so long as the defensive coach, and he's the real deal. And his guys are going to fight to the last second.
Bo Davis,
unbelievable coach, and he's the one that threw the fit on the bus a couple years ago. You remember when the guy that coach threw it was on the internet where he went crazy on them, and because I guess they got beat by a team 2 years ago, and they were giggling on the bus after the game after they got beat, and he just totally went. And that's what they needed at Texas. They needed a attitude change,
Yeah.
And that's what they got, and you see the difference. My hat's totally off to that. They had a quarterback injury, almost lost to Kansas State. I think it was Kansas State. Yeah, it was Kansas State where they went for it on 4th and 4 when they kick a field goal to tie from the 4th. I don't know about that call, but I like Texas too. I just think that I really think we're going to see a rematch. I'm really interested in what you think about Michigan and Alabama, though.
Yeah, I agree with the rematch. I think we will see it. I think everything Michigan does well, Alabama does well. And some things I think Alabama is going to do better. First of all, there's been a lot of talk, and I think this is really smart, that Michigan hasn't really faced a quarterback quite like Jalen Milroe, who's got the ability both to run and to connect deep down the field. And so this is going to be kind of a new thing for them on defense, although Michigan's defense is the real deal. I worry about Michigan's offense because as much credit as they get in their running game this year, they finished 74th in yards per rushing attempt. They played some good defenses. I mean, Penn State, Ohio State, even Rutgers. These are Iowa. These are really good rushing defenses. But they also played UNLV, East Carolina, Bowling Green, Indiana, and folks like that. And so, the passing attack is good. It's quite good, but it's not elite. And when you saw the Iowa game, the Big Ten championship game, Michigan's offense only scored 2 touchdowns. One was a 5-yard drive when a punt return set them up at the 5. The other was a 6-yard drive because their defense got them a fumble at 6. Other than that, they kicked some field goals, a bunch of field goals, but they moved the ball a little bit and then they bogged down. Well, you got to ask yourself, do you really think that Alabama's or that Iowa's defense is that much better than Alabama's defense? And I think no, especially in the secondary. And so this is a situation where I don't know that Michigan's offense will be able to do enough against an elite defense with so many big guys who can run. I think a lot of their numbers happen because they are quite good, Michigan's offense, but when they can physically bully teams, they do. I just don't think trying to physically bully Alabama's defense is a recipe for success.
Well, the whole key to me, for Alabama, is to get ahead in the get ahead in the game, and force some people to throw the ball like they did Georgia. I will never understand Georgia's game plan offensively. I don't understand why they didn't run what Auburn ran, the counter tray. I don't think they ran it once. They tried a misdirection on the fumble that was kind of similar to a play Auburn ran. Of course, they fumbled it. Maybe that's what kept them from doing it anymore. But to me, if they can get ahead of Michigan by 2 scores and get them where they throw the ball a little bit, that's where they 3rd and 8 or better. Those 2 outside guys are just really hard to block. I mean, they're as good as Georgia's tackles were. They had trouble blocking them in the game, and I think that'll be the same thing against Michigan. It's just Alabama's pass rush. If they can get you there, they can get to that situation is really good.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and so I think Michigan's going to run into a bit of a stone wall. The Texas Washington game, I think, is a little bit more of a not necessarily a toss-up, but I think I think Texas has the edge in that because of the line of scrimmage. And then what a matchup that would be. Former Alabama offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian facing Nick Saban. And, if that's the final, that's going to be an amazing game.
You could sell it as the last two coaches of the Crimson Tide, as Sark was the fill-in when Nick was down with COVID that year in 2020.
Yeah, you actually can. And the thing is, I mean, when you handicap that game, I think if that's the matchup, Alabama has the better secondary. But I think overall, when you look at the potential, skill players, quarterback, receivers, tight end, running back, it's hard. It's hard. It's either even or you have to give the edge, I think, to Texas in some ways. And when you talk about play caller, you've got Steve Sarkisian, who showed how masterful he is as a play caller in the Big 12 championship game against Oklahoma State. I mean, it was a clinic of just slicing up a defense against Tommy Rees, who I think is a good young offensive coordinator. But if you're putting those two against one another, you got to give the edge to Sark. And so that would be a very interesting thing. We have a lot of football left to be played before we get to that point. That's a hypothetical matchup. But think about Alabama. This is a great thing for me. I think this, in all the time I've watched Nick Saban coach, and you guys have watched him longer than I have, but in the time that I have, this is the best coaching job he's done.
No question.
When this team started, they lose to Texas. I expected them to go out and annihilate USF the next week in retaliation, essentially. And they almost lost that game. They struggled to beat USF. And what you saw was a different Nick Saban, at least publicly. You saw nurturing Nick instead of taskmaster Nick. Often in the past, when they had either had a sloppy win or a loss, he would come out and challenge everybody's manhood, right? Challenge them to get back to doing the things that need to be done in order to have success on Saturdays. But after the USF game, he was asked what went wrong, and he was very vague comparatively in describing, we made some mistakes, and we know better at certain things, and here's some of the things. But then he went directly to what things he thought the team did well to pull out a close win on the road. And I'm thinking, close win on the road, it was USF. But he talked about the good things. And it seemed to me like he had a team that was very young in a lot of places that could go either direction in terms of spinning off the rails emotionally. And instead of challenging their manhood as a team publicly early, he nurtured them. He built them up emotionally. He built them up as young men until they were ready for more of the taskmaster. And he took that team and turned them into a one-loss SEC champ and a playoff team. And that, to me, in the way that he seemed to do it, adding that, I'm not saying he's not nurturing ever. Of course he is, right? But just the public demeanor that he had was so different from what it's been in many years past. And I thought it was just remarkable the way Nick Saban matched the needs of his team to get them to this point.
Well, and my listeners and Steve's heard this, and I said it the day after the game. I think Coach Saban in that game didn't play Jalen Milroe on purpose the whole game, because after that game, he immediately said he's the starter, and there wasn't one person on this earth could disagree with him, and it brought the whole team and put it behind one guy. Because I think the team was kind of split on who should be the quarterback in the locker room and in the public. But there's no split anymore. There hasn't been since that game. And I always say that Coach Saban's playing chess while everybody's playing checkers. And he's a master, like you said, of putting this. I remember when Alabama beat Arkansas by 1 point in one of the championship games, and he was the same way. Everybody was acting like we lost the game. And he went ballistic on the press, defending his team. He seems to be given whatever food they need, though. He has that sense about him that is incredible. And
Wes, That's an amazing theory that maybe he sat down Jalen Milroe in the USF game because he knew that the team would want him back and they'd coalesce around him. All you need now is a grassy knoll, and you got a story.
Well, I said it right after the game. Just the way he immediately after the – I mean, you would think he'd have put him in the game at some time. I mean, Tyler Buckner looked like he was playing lacrosse. It all makes sense now. And then the second-string quarterback, he struggled a little bit, but he played pretty good. He's going to be a good player. He's just immature. He showed that when he threw the ball down before he scored against Chattanooga, before he ran into the end zone. But everybody from everybody on the team, every coach, every fan, all were behind Milroe. There was no question. That's the guy we had to was going to lead our team. I don't think anybody dreamed that we would get to where – I think people started believing after the LSU game that Milroe has something to him. And then the Tennessee game, the second half, and all that together, and seeing him just – it was – I've never seen a player grow more in 1 year than Jalen Milroe.
Yeah,
Ever.
I agree, Wes. Yeah, and you can see it as you watch him over the course of the season. I mean, he'll stand in the pocket, and instead of being skittish as the season wore on, because he was skittish early, and looking at the pass rush and solving the problem with his legs, he'll stay in there with the pressure flying around him, or he'll move in the pocket, he'll climb in the pocket, he'll do things that experienced quarterbacks do to create a little bit of space for himself while still looking for ways to solve the problem with his arm, while still problem solving instead of bugging out. And you saw that confidence grow. And it's interesting, before the 31, what was it, 4th and goal at the 31 against Auburn, before that play, he was quoted as saying in the media, he said, let's go make a play. And I'm thinking, at that point, his team would have seen his growth and seen his confidence and had confidence that, yeah, we can go make a play here. And I think that line, if he said it, should go down in Iron Bowl lore and Alabama lore. I think it's an amazing line at the time that he said it, because of the time that he said it. And I think the second greatest line from after that game, Miss Terry was quoted as saying, yay. And I thought that was a pretty good quote as well.
Well, just to let you know, Trevor, I happened to go to the SEC championship game and ran into Miss Terry in the press conference room and asked her how she was doing. She grabbed my shoe that was up over my right knee and said, I want to dance.
You danced with Miss Terry? Steve, I hadn't heard this.
No, I did not dance with Miss Terry. No, I did not. But I did find out.
So you turned Miss Terry down. Is that what you're saying?
No, we all found out that Nick Saban is a bad dancer. We all found this out.
But Sugar Steve can dance, I bet.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what the definition of a good dancer is?
What's that?
A guy with a whole case full of national championships.
That's it.
When you got more national championship rings than you got fingers on one hand, you're a great dancer no matter what.
Yeah, that's the damn truth.
Isn't it? I did want to go to the portal with you, not literally, but just how populated the portal has just gotten over the last, it's not even been a week, Trevor, and we're over 1,200 players in the portal. What can be done about it?
Nothing. I mean, nothing. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, because you'll have lawsuits like crazy if you start to say, yeah, well, you can no longer transfer the first time without having to sit out a year. We gave that to you, now we're taking it away. That's going to be a lawyer issue. And unless you have literally collective bargaining where somehow there's representation for the players and they bargain that away, then, that nothing's going to happen. It makes life miserable on coaches, but at the same time, I always default to what's better for the players. And, if you've got a skill in the entertainment industry, if you're in a boy band, and you decide you want to go to the other boy band, for whatever reason, you can go. You can do that. But if you throw a football, you can't. You know, and now you got NIL, which is brought into it, which makes it free agency. Same thing. Who am I to tell an 18 or 19-year-old kid with a skill in the entertainment industry that they are not allowed to maximize that skill if they throw a football, but they can if they can sing or act? You know, that's it's not right. And so I always default to that, and that's the high bar that needs to be overcome. I did hear ESPN reporter Tom Van Haren say something very interesting. He said, you know, some of the people that he talks to, you know, he's kind of got this idea that maybe the solution to this would be, and this, I guess, would have to be collectively bargained, but if players, or maybe not, if players were to sign actual contracts, because the grant and aid scholarships are year to year, essentially. And if the players were to say, okay, I'm going to, 1-year contract, a 2-year, a 3-year, a 4-year, let's say it's a 3-year contract. I'm going to sign a 3-year contract to play for you, Alabama, and I commit to not transfer during those 3 years, right? Then Alabama knows they can put time and resources into that guy. If somebody comes in and signs a 1-year deal and they hope to re-up it, okay, but we're going to get some other people ready, and we're going to be ready to replace you in the portal, right? And so that might end up helping teams manage the roster churn a little bit if they can get that kind of a commitment. But
you know, that's a great idea.
You've got to give up something of value.
Right, but that's a great idea because what your example, if you're a singer, you're going to have a contract that you got to stay to till that contract's over.
Right, and so it's they're just. I mean, and what happens now? I mean, I don't know. I think players are loving all this opportunity, all this freedom, all this leverage, all this NIL money. I mean, unless you're a, first or second round draft choice, a lot of players would end up making more money. Not all of them, but some of them would make more money staying an extra year in college and getting NIL money than they would make if they were drafted in the mid to late rounds. And so that's interesting. That's a double bonus for those players because now they get to stay and develop and become a higher draft choice, and they make more money than they would have made, right? So, all these things for the players have the option for being good. For the coaches, it's terrible. But I want to point out two things about the transfer portal real fast. One is that when it works spectacularly. The 4 Heisman finalists include 3 quarterbacks that all were transfers. Would Michael Penix Jr. of Washington or Bo Nix of Oregon or Jaden Daniels at LSU, would they have had the kind of offensive lines and receivers and skilled players around them that they would have had in their former schools of Indiana, Auburn, and Arizona State? And the answer is not even close. And so those guys had their capabilities and potential unlocked because of the transfer portal. But the other thing is there are a whole lot of guys that don't end up finding a home. And they have a scholarship, they go into the portal, and nobody's willing to give them a scholarship.
60% of the people that enter the portal end up with no team to go to.
And those guys aren't in the news. The guys that are Heisman finalists are in the news. So this is where buyer beware. I like the freedom. I don't believe we should legislate to protect adults from themselves in a case like this. But I think it's important for players to get good advice, and there already are a whole lot of cautionary tales for current players to look at where either former players or players who transferred out and don't have a home, would be able to tell them, hey, this is what I wish I knew before I made that decision.
You know what I've noticed, Trevor, too, though, is these quarterbacks that you mentioned, and you're absolutely right, they will not be where they were if they hadn't transferred. But each of them struggled at times the first year. I mean, Jaden Daniels really came out against Alabama last year. I mean, he played awful against Tennessee last year. They got smoked at home. But you saw Bo Nix, his first game against Georgia, struggled mightily in that game. So it seems like to me that if I'm going after a quarterback, I'm going after one with multiple years of experience of eligibility left, not just 1 year, because to me it's hard to get ready in 1 year and change systems and do that over the spring. And it's like almost you're starting somebody with a little experience, but in a new offensive scheme. They're starting with one arm behind their back when they first get there.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's part of the downside. Chemistry is so important on a football team, and if you don't have chemistry. You don't have time to build the chemistry because you're a one-and-done kind of guy because you only got 1 year of eligibility left, or you decide to transfer out of it the second time because you graduated, then, that's a real problem. And another real problem for coaches is like, imagine if you're a smaller school, you're a group of 5 school, or you're a, just call it that. You're a group of 5 school, and you beat the recruiting trails, and you find a quarterback that nobody else is really paying attention to, but you think he's got a lot of potential. And so you bring him in, you give him a scholarship, you work with him for 2 years. He becomes a really, really good quarterback. And then he goes ahead and transfers out to a bigger school, right? Then, okay, now what do you do? So if you're that level of team, would you rather have a bigger school get a quarterback that's higher rated coming out of high school, develop him for a couple of years, he decides he can't play there because of the competition, and then have him transfer to you, rather than you take your resources and have them leave for some other school? And that's just the quarterback. So how do you manage all of that? So things are really kind of getting nuts. And absent a contract of a definitive length, the teams that are going to be successful over the next couple of years are going to be the ones who learn how to manage this the best.
We had Dan Murphy on yesterday about this new proposal from Charlie Baker, and reading about it further on ESPN.com, Charlie Baker laid out an aggressive and potentially groundbreaking vision. This is from the story. A new NCAA subdivision at the very top of college sports was sent in a letter to 350 Division I schools this week. Have you seen this story yet, Trevor?
Yes. Yeah. They're talking about having the highest tier teams in terms of money and the rest of it be able to determine their own kind of rules when it comes to roster size and how many recruits they can have, and what's the transfer portal rules and how the players will get compensated. Let them do it themselves. Right now, there were proposals. It's only a proposal. It's just all a big cloud floating around right now. But let me tell you why I like it. I thought when USC and UCLA announced they were going to the Big Ten, and then you had Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, and then Washington and Oregon going to the Big Ten, I immediately thought that this will lead to 2 power conferences that will be treated like the NFL. And the money will get so big, and eventually the courts will allow them to pay players directly, not just NIL. And there'll be so much money coming in that they will get all the best players. And you can have a 12-team playoff, but that 12-team playoff will be filled mostly with teams from the Big Ten and the SEC, because they will have most of the best players because they can pay the best players the most. And so you'll have a group of 5 representative there. You might have somebody else as a representative. But if you have the highest ranked, call it the 5 highest ranked, however they would do it. The point is that you would end up having a mostly Big Ten against SEC playoff, certainly with advantages on the field, without having to worry about lawsuits, because everybody has access to it if they're good enough to get there. And this would be an interesting thing. It would create a power, too, much like the NFL. You'd have the AFC and the NFC. You'd have a multiple-round playoff, which could fold into this 12-team playoff, which you could tweak in different ways, and that would absolutely happen. And I think we're kind of heading there now. This proposal might get us there without court action. But let me tell you why I like the proposal, regardless of what the details are. It is because at least this is people with a vested interest in college football having a proactive role in determining the future of college football. NIL was determined by the courts. Now, I think it's turned out okay, but it was determined by the courts. There are state legislatures all over the country that have been passing laws relative to governing college football in their state. And they're trying to get an advantage, right? And so there's NIL and there's all kinds of different things that they're doing in their states. Well, here's the thing. If college football people, meaning the presidents essentially of the universities, if they don't take a proactive role in determining what's going to be best for college football, then that role will be filled by the courts and by legislators. Courts' interest is not the health of college football, it's complying with law. Legislatures have their own interests, which include elections, right? And also law and what's best for their state. It's the college football people that need to determine the future of all this, and the future is way up in the air right now. And at least I'm happy that there's been an idea floated that would get the vested interests of the game involved in a conversation of the future of the game, rather than sitting on the sidelines like they've been doing, waiting for courts and legislatures to tell them what their sport's going to be like.
Yep. So when you look at, to me, you look at.
Well, we gave him a lot. You gave him a lot to chew on.
Yeah,
right
I know.
there,
Here's a lot. Here's a lot.
I should have just did one thing instead of three.
It's good.
On my part.
Yeah,
no. It was good information.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm glad that they're trying to move in some direction. But to me, what's happened is it's helped some of these other schools, the NIL and the players being able to move. Look what it's done already for the Pac-12 that's no longer the Pac-12. But to me, it's gonna spread the wealth a little bit more, because what's happening in some of these schools is, like it's happening in Florida right now, is they never give these guys long enough. They have 3 years, right? And if they're not back up to the top in 3 years, they get rid of them now. And that is a model that will never work. But by being able to go and get people to transfer, like with the supposedly NIL, which I like the true NIL. I don't like what they're trying to do, but it gives them opportunity to build these teams faster, because these guys that are going now with the old rules wouldn't have a prayer to get something done in 3 years. And I don't think
Ole Miss, for example,
right? And I don't think Billy Napier will make it at Florida. If you look at his schedule next year, it's a rough deal. But I think if they give Billy Napier time, he will make it. If they give him the 4 or 5 years, like you should, then I think he will make it. But I don't know what you feel about that. But to me, I see a little bit more parity coming, not as much. But look how many football teams we have now. I mean, what are there, 260 now?
There's a few, and there's a reason for it, right?
It's the money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But see, here's what I kind of look at. I think parity within the Power Two, the Big Ten and the SEC, essentially. I think you'll have pretty good parity, certainly in the top half of both of those conferences. But below that, it's like what was the Big Ten? What they were getting? What, $70 million per year per school, something like that?
Yeah, well, that was that neighborhood. Yeah.
You know what the SEC is?
Well, it's about to be the new contract. I think will be over $100 million a team.
Okay, well, gee golly. Okay, so let's call it $100 million a team, right? ACC, I think, is around $30 million. So that's $70 million a year more that the SEC teams will be getting than the ACC teams will get. That's $70 million a year. The ACC's contract goes through 2036. Is that what it is? So just to make it
that's
easier
right.
on that.
That's right.
Let's call that 10 years. It's more than that. But 10 years at $70 million a year, it's $700 million more over the next decade that SEC schools will have than ACC schools will have. So we're not just talking about facilities. You can only have so many waterfalls in your locker room. We're talking about healthcare for players after football. We're talking about recruiting offices and scouting offices that are NFL style. So now you're spending a fortune, much like teams like Alabama do now, but it'll be even more, where recruits don't even come to the coach's attention until they've been thoroughly vetted based on the coach's criteria by other people whose specialty is to recruit, right? And so they're really highly sophisticated but very expensive recruiting operations, plus money that's available to pay players, right? And this is where I think the parity between the top two conferences and the rest of them is going to disappear a little bit if things happen the way I kind of expect them to happen. Now, it may not end up being that way. There's a lot of things that we don't know. One of those things is we don't know the full impact of streaming and tech companies. Because if Apple and Amazon's doing well with the NFL, I guess now on Thursdays. If they decide they want to get into college football, Apple's already dabbling in that. If X decides they want to get involved with that, and all of a sudden they start to build up a portfolio so they can get some runway. Well, they got to build up the portfolio with teams and conferences that are available to them. And Big Ten, SEC are going to be locked up. ACC's locked up for a while. So what do? You go to the smaller ones. You go to ones that have shorter contracts. And now they're competing with each other to kind of be the streaming player on the block so they can then make big plays for SEC and Big Ten years down the road when they become available again. We don't know what's going to happen with companies like that. And that may inflate the dollars per team for ACC teams, Big 12 teams, Group of 5 teams in ways that we can't even fathom right now. So a lot of things that we don't know.
Trevor, we are just flat out of time, but we thank you so much for the knowledge and the insight. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and your family, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Wes. Merry Christmas to you guys as well.
Thanks, Trevor.
That is Trevor Mattich. Always enjoy our conversations with Trevor Mattich.
You're listening to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Tom Abraham here for my friends at North Alabama Mortgage. Are you thinking about home improvements? Well, use your equity now and refi later. Or use your equity to eliminate consumer debt forever, then refi to a lower rate and shorter term when rates drop. North Alabama Mortgage can also help you if you're thinking about buying an investment property or a second home at the lake or the beach or in the mountains. We have great programs to make that happen. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
Rambo Marine in Hazel Green is your one-stop shop for all things boating. Whether you are ready to surf with the newest Malibu wake boat or cruise on a Cobalt or Barletta pontoon, we have a boat ready for you and your family. Rambo Marine provides exceptional service second to none, so that you are ready to hit the water in no time. Stop by Rambo Marine today. We know boats. What if I told you that Bigfoot is real and that he's making the best donuts you've ever had? Come see for yourself at Bigfoot's Little Donuts. Come in and order from over 50 flavors, all made hot and delicious. Ranked in the top 100 donut shops in the nation by Yelp. Bigfoot Little Donuts. Order in store or online at BigfootsLittleDonuts.com for pickup or delivery from Grub South or DoorDash. South Parkway, Huntsville, and County Line Road, Madison. Bigfoot's Little Donuts.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Sign up now for the 97.7 ESPN The Zone Bowl Challenge. Just go to ESPN.com, click on Capital One Bowl Mania.
He must be the most ambitious man in the world.
And join the 97.7 ESPN Bowl Challenge group. First place will win an overnight stay at Guntersville State Park, plus dinner in the Pinecrest Room, plus golf at Gunter's Landing. Second place wins a foursome at Cherokee Ridge. And third wins food at Bubby's Diner, Bad Daddy's Burger Bar, and Coralejos Mexican Grill. Find the link to sign up at our 97.7 ESPN Facebook page and on X at 97.7 ESPN.
You keep saying that, but you don't tell me how.
Sign up now for the 97.7 ESPN The Zone Bowl Challenge. Just go to ESPN.com, click on Capital One Bowl Mania, and join the 97.7 ESPN Bowl Challenge group. Join today, and good luck.
This kind of stuff makes you grow up quick.
With you live from Cleveland, Tennessee. Nothing wrong with a little Huey Lewis in the news right there on a Friday.
That's just for me and you, Steve.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. I heard Tom Abraham yesterday, and clearly he doesn't know what he's talking about. Scoreboard update for you. Lee leading it over UAH 57-39, 8:43 left to go in quarter number 4. Walking you up to our coverage of the men. But coming up on the other side of this Sports Center timeout, going to re-rack a conversation Wes and I did with Coach David Cutcliffe from earlier in the week as well, digesting a little bit of the SEC Championship, as well as his time there in Vegas for the College Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony as well. We'll be right back.
Tom Abraham here for my friends at North Alabama Mortgage. Did you know that average home equity is at an all-time high? But so is average consumer debt. Even though rates are higher now, you can use your equity to pay off your high consumer debt, student loans, etc., then refi when the rates drop. Don't put off that new home purchase. When rates drop, prices will go up. Buy now and get the best price and then refi when the rates drop. This is the time to talk to the experts at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com for more information.
Chapman Commercial Realty, your source for Alabama commercial real estate. Chapman Commercial Realty has the experience and expertise you're looking for when making commercial real estate decisions. If it's office space, retail space, investment property, or project development, Chapman Commercial Realty is your answer. Call Bill Chapman today at 256-656-8413. That's 256-656-8413. Or find them online at chapmancommercialrealty.com.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Sports
I'm Kevin Winter. 13 games in the NBA tonight, and they are known as the games and the teams who will be playing if you did not make it to Las Vegas for the in-season tournament. Those 4 semifinal teams who played yesterday, and the Pacers and Lakers who will play tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Radio, 8:30 on ABC television. Everyone else, you're in action tonight, including the Celtics and the Knicks, who lost their quarterfinal matchups. Boston will host New York coming up at the bottom of the hour. Minnesota, the best team, the best record in the NBA. Next hour, they're in Memphis taking on the Grizzlies. Golden State is in Oklahoma City tonight. Also tonight, the Detroit Pistons put their remarkable 18-game losing streak on the line. You heard me right. 18-game losing streak Pistons are in Orlando taking on the Magic, who are 14-7 on the season. That game will tip coming up in a matter of moments. NFL news, Week 14, Chiefs and Bills Sunday at Arrowhead. Chiefs are going to be without running back Isaiah Pacheco. He's out with a shoulder injury. Jacksonville is going to take a wait-and-see approach until Sunday with their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. He sustained a high ankle sprain in Monday night's loss to the Bengals, Jags, and the Browns this weekend. USC wide receiver Brendan Rice, the son of Hall of Famer Jerry Rice, has announced that he will declare for the NFL draft. The junior Rice had almost 800 receiving yards, 12 touchdown receptions this past season for the Trojans. NHL news, the Islanders have acquired veteran defenseman Robert Bertozzo in a trade with St. Louis. Left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez agrees to a 4-year deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jeff Passan says it's worth about $20 million a year.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman. Coming up Monday, Tyreek Hill, MVP. I'll tell you why this could be the year a non-quarterback should win the MVP award. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
97.7 ESPN The Zone. Welcome to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977.
That's how I roll. And I'm not going to drink and drive anymore.
That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Wes and Steve.
Final hour of the week is upon us, and we've got more local programming coming up for you here in about 30 minutes' time, and our coverage of UAH Charger basketball will take over the airwaves of 97.7 ESPN The Zone. If you tried to grab our latest Zone deal, it went really quickly this morning with Bad Daddy's Burger Bar, but don't worry, next Friday we are going to feature Corlejo's Mexican Grill, another station favorite of our listeners, and that comes up next Friday. There's still a few available. I can't believe I'm saying it, but there are still a few available for Bigfoot Little Donuts. Yeah, you can get $50 worth of Bigfoot Little Donuts for just $25. I know we're in the single digits. I think we were at 7 or 6 left of those coupons. If you'd like to head on down, in fact, there's 2 locations of Bigfoot Little Donuts, and just head over to our website, 977ESPN.com, click on the Zone deal, and away you go. You can print them immediately. You don't have to wait on anything, and use them this weekend. In fact, I may go over there tomorrow morning. The French toast donuts are fantastic. Anyway, enough of that. Wes and I had an opportunity to talk to David Cutcliffe. Going to re-rack that conversation, and then that'll roll into our pregame coverage of UAH and Lee. Here is our conversation we had earlier this week with David Cutcliffe. Back here at Mark Camara's Furniture Factory Bar and Grill. That might be a nice little tune to dance to. Who knows? Maybe Coach David Cutcliffe is jamming out in Las Vegas as we speak. And the special assistant to the commissioner for football relations, David Cutcliffe. Coach Cut is kind enough to join us. How are you, Coach?
Well, I am good. Vegas is an interesting place, is how I'm going to term it. I've asked my wife and I, she's on the trip, but done a lot of walking, but a lot of handshaking, a lot of events. We had a great SEC reception for our people or our men that are headed into the College Football Hall of Fame. So that was a lot of fun last night. And then tonight is the big induction.
Wow. That's Coach, I've never been in that room. What is that room like to be a part of?
Well, it can be intimidating when you're in that sports world. It's inspiring. I've been fortunate to know a lot of guys that have reached that status as players and coaches, and you are very proud of them and happy for them and their families. Last night, of course, one that I have a personal relationship with is Eric Berry, who played at Tennessee when I was there, and know his dad and mom and were able to be with them. But, Eric is a Hall of Famer. And then Al Wilson, who is another Hall of Famer, came all the way out here to Vegas to celebrate Eric on this trip. So I had some good time with those folks last night. And then maybe the most exciting thing right now in this event is Commissioner, or as I call him, Coach Kramer, Roy Kramer, is going in as a football coach from Central Michigan, and seeing the commissioner, former commissioner, seeing his family was absolutely amazing. Commissioner is 94, I believe, maybe 95.
Wow.
Sharp as a tack. And what's interesting when you talk to people like Roy Kramer, he knows things that other people have no chance of knowing. Been a part of college athletics for a long, long time. And I try to talk to him and get as many stories out of him every chance I get to see him. So just a huge celebration. And Tim Tebow, who a lot of people know well, is in this class, and I got a chance to visit with he and his parents are so proud. And, he's a guy that actually changed quarterbacking in many, many ways, not only in the Southeastern Conference, but collegiately, just the approach they used when they played with Tim Tebow. So great night last night and a bigger night tonight.
Coach, how long has this been in Las Vegas? They used to have it at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, right?
And I wish it still was personally, but we got moved from the Waldorf due to a massive renovation there. And this is actually the first time I have attended in Vegas. I think this is the third year, maybe. Could be the fourth, I'm not sure. How long they had to sign the contract to stay here, I'm not sure. So whether it returns to New York, which I loved going to New York. It was just magic with this event. And so it is really different. And I'm not a gambler or a partier, so Vegas is a little different for me. That's why I went for a 2-hour walk today. Love to see it, but as long as I'm keeping moving by it, I'm all good.
So Coach, I got a story you'll enjoy, I believe. So, my father was put in the Hall of Fame. It's been a long time now. I can't remember the year. But we go up, and the university, the first or second night, had a party for my dad. And we went early. And I get there, and my dad's two sisters were sitting there just all over Johnny Majors.
Uh-huh.
And I was sitting there, well, why in the world, how do y'all know Johnny Majors? Because it was obvious when I walked up, they knew him. Said he used to come to our house all the time. His brother played at Alabama. And, of course, they were in Tuscaloosa, and they used to come to their house all the time. And I didn't even know that.
Well, I went with Coach Majors up there multiple times while I was working with him, and we had great trips. He loved New York, deeply loved New York, and I'm not sure what year he went in as a player, but, obviously was always going to make it. And it was a true black tie affair then. And it kind of is now, but, things have changed. But, this was pure tuxedos. And partially for a while, I think maybe it had been men only to the induction, and that changed. And then one of the other things that we do is we celebrate the Campbell Award, which is the top. It's called the Academic Heisman. You got to be a quality player and a great student, which Peyton Manning won while I was coaching him. And there'll be great student athletes there tonight, and that's another reason that John Majors and Coach Bryant, and it's a chance to celebrate student athletes as well for all the right reasons, if that makes sense, you know.
Talking to Coach David Cutcliffe right now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. By the way, your dad's class was class of 2003, so it's been 20 years.
Unbelievable. But Eli won it, that award, I believe. Yeah. He won some. Yeah. He won the award also, didn't he?
My brain power, Wes. Right?
Eli and the quarterback from Ohio State, and then the linebacker who ended up at the Jets from Miami. I can't call his name right now, but, God, he was good.
You're getting me, too, because I can see him, and I can't pull his name out.
They were incredible. All of them gave. The guy from Ohio State was a molecular biologist degree.
Really?
Yeah, I can't even spell that. I don't know. I mean, that was.
I can't even say that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty all-inspiring. I actually have a young man here, Dwayne Carter, that we recruited, and he played for us at Duke, and he is one of the finalists. I don't know who's going to win it, but he will be here tonight. I look forward to seeing his mom and dad, hugging their neck, and seeing Dwayne.
Coach, I did want to ask about future schedules, and I know you've, at least from past conversations, that you've been a proponent of sticking with 8 conference games, and I do wonder whether or not with this new expanded playoffs, that is certainly going to take a bite out of these bowl-eligible teams once we get to postseason play, Coach.
Well, it will, and there's nothing about college football that it is what it once was. I mean, let's face it, the change has occurred. Some great, some in a lot of people's eyes, including mine, not so great. But we've got a lot of work left to do. I think the 2 words that people try to use in scheduling, they want it fair and they want it balanced. And those are 2 difficult things to do. But through analytics within our league, the variation of schedule is not more than 3 to 4%, meaning, okay, over a 10-year period, here's your opponents, and here's their record combined, and there's like a 48-point-something and a 52% variation, meaning within 4% of balance and fairness. And you can do it over a 10-year period, not 2 or 3 last years, you know.
Yeah.
And so you start there, and then things change. And I saw some of the people from the analytic company that has been hired that I've been really impressed with since I've been in this job, and I've had a lot of long conversations with them. And I saw them in Atlanta over the weekend at the championship game, and they feel really good. I mean, these are unbiased people, really smart people, and they feel really good with what has been able to occur in that. And it's going to be ever-changing. Who knows? 16 teams? Maybe. I mean, who knows right now? I don't even try to speculate. I don't sit in on all those high-level meetings. But, you know, we just got to trust that a lot of people that know what they're doing are doing this as well as it can possibly be done.
Well, what was your impression of the Southeastern Conference Championship game?
Well, I was down on the field for a long time, and I'll tell you what it was. It was a physical football game. The line of scrimmage is where, in my opinion, Alabama won the game. You know, now there was no domination anywhere, but if you just look at what occurred, time to throw the ball and success running the football, it's been rare that Georgia, over this run they've had, has come out on the short end of that in any game. and I thought Alabama's offensive unit is one of the more improved units in the conference. It's easy to see, Jalen Milroe and how hard he's worked, and I've told him that. I said, your start to finish has been impressive, but your job's not finished. I don't leave it with rat poison. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. They're not going to blame that on you anyway, right?
No. My job has always been to challenge players to be their best, and if you think you've done your best, there's more, and that's essentially what I tell them. And but I think Alabama's offensive front on both sides, on offense, is extremely improved from when I saw them early in the season. And then the defensive front, it was really impressive coming up with the amount of pressure they put on the quarterback and, getting to him. And then obviously, very obvious, stopping the run was incredibly important in that game. But it was a true SEC match where you could hear it. When you could hear contact, people don't understand the noise a line of scrimmage makes or not. That was the thing I did as a head coach. I would always, early in the game, first quarter, I looked at nothing but both lines of scrimmage. Looked at our offense and our defense up front to see what I thought strategy we might have to use to win a game, because those matchups are so critical.
They were indeed. I tell you that. And what a great environment, too. I happened to be in Atlanta as well over the weekend, Coach, and you could just feel that intensity. And it was brought up in the postgame. I believe Dennis Dodd asked both coaches in both press conferences whether or not we're going to feel that same energy with the expanded playoffs. And it's hard to not think that it might ding it a little bit, Coach.
Well, it's when you extend a season and you look at the National Football League, it's what I do for statistics, because that's so evenly paired, more so than people realize. There's not a lot of difference from a Super Bowl champion to maybe the last place team. It may look like it, in record, but when you look at the National Football League, it's why you see some really good teams lose early. I think we're human.
Yeah.
And the longer we're having to do something, there's more opportunity for letdown. The difference, in the National Football League and college football has been the critical importance. The quote playoff has been game 1 through game 12. You lose, you're out, kind of mentality. And I hope we don't lose that at all. And I don't think we will. But I realize, and everybody needs to realize, that a critical injury, even if you win your first round, which would be, quote, the second round for the, quote, best teams. Yeah. But if you win your first game and you lose 2 of your best players, you may well struggle to be the champion. So it's an interesting dilemma. It will certainly be interesting. And one thing we do know, the viewership will be amazing.
Yeah.
So you're right.
If Mike Norvell were to reach out to you, the Florida State head coach, after what happened to their team, what would be a piece of advice or two that you would offer up on how to handle that situation with your team, if it was your team, Coach?
Yeah, first, I know Mike well. Coached against him when he was at Arizona State as the offensive coordinator. We played him in the Sun Bowl. He's a good football coach. When he came in the ACC, he spent a lot of time talking with me. And there's nothing that you can say that will make the Florida State fans, players, or Mike feel okay about this. There's no way to justify what occurred. We all have our opinion, and I would never share that with him. But what is an absolute that I see coaches struggle with, I'm going to give you a Coach Bryant thing he did. and I always tried to do this as head coach. On Wednesday night, his thing was always have a plan for everything. And you write it down and you think in a calm manner, this is going to be basically what I'm going to say if we win. You don't want to win cost you a game the next week, you know. This is what I'm going to say if we lose. And in his area, he would write down, this is what I'm going to say if we tie. But he also would talk about heartbreaker. That when you face a heartbreaker, you know, we've seen those losses. I can remember one specifically that I didn't do a very good job. We played Arkansas when I was head coach at Ole Miss in 7 overtimes and lost to Matt Jones. That heartbreaker, you better think about. So going into that, and I don't know what he has said to his team privately, going into that Sunday, if you're on that bubble, you better already know and have a plan. And if you haven't, you know, he's playing in a big bowl game against a national championship team until somebody else is crowned. Georgia's the national champion of college football, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
You know, turn your attention to focus on that. And that would have been what I would have done. Yes, what I would have done, I would have had that thought process, knowing that you're going to have a huge game, impact game on your program. And Mike, you're young. There is more to come. You know, God bless you all. You know, part of that criteria was, you know, for that committee to look at what's the team look like right now. The other part of it is strength of schedule, but you know, you make sure they know they did their part. They've done nothing wrong, and we have a chance to have an undefeated season that is, you know, been in a lot of mythical national championships. Remember the story of the missing ring at Alabama, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember a few years ago, I guess it was Central Florida that had the mythical national championship. So just be concerned. My mother told me this, and I know I'm rambling, but this has been so emotional for me, and I think the committee got it right. I can say that publicly, even though Florida State folks may hate me. But my mother, I was upset about not getting an award. My mother was a wise person, and my dad had passed away before this. She said, "What's your problem?" And I told her. She said, "Well, do you understand the difference between success and achievement?" And I said, "Not really." She said, "Well, success or awards, someone else's opinion. You've done your job, but it's someone else's opinion. Achievement is looking in the mirror. Don't kid yourself, but if you've done everything you could have possibly done to be the best you can be, then you have achieved, and that's a whole lot more satisfying than success." And that's the story I told Peyton Manning when he didn't win the Heisman. We flew back on a plane to Knoxville, and I knew I was worried about that. And that goes back to that plan. And I don't know if it made him feel any better or not, but that what she said is reality. So let's all remember that. It's always usually somebody else's opinion. Most importantly, let's look in the mirror and know that we have absolutely been our best.
Coach, I think it's a good place to end right there. Coach, I cannot thank you enough for those words of wisdom. I mean, great insight. And certainly happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and your family if we don't talk in the next coming weeks. And we appreciate the time that you give us, Coach.
Appreciate you guys, and good visit with you guys, and I love what you do for sports. And I also want to tell all the listeners a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas, and let's have a great holiday season.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
All right, take care.
You're listening to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Hey there, Bob Baumhauer here. Score big deals at Baumhauer's this football season and order from our Inflation Bites menu. Try our Buffalo Wing Special with fries and a complimentary beverage for only $9.99.